All right, good afternoon. Welcome back here to Trader Minute. Great to have you aboard. Um, gonna have to do something I don't want to do, but hey, it's part of the process, and I'm pulling off Disney here. Now, I mentioned this morning that if Disney's able to rally a little bit, there's a chance that it could trigger here on the algorithm. And unfortunately, it is not. It is not triggering. I've thought about different ways. Can I hold it and justify it and everything else? And the bottom line is I'm breaking the algorithm if I do, or I'm going against things if I do. And it's not, a highly unusual type circumstance. So I'm going to pull it and, live to fight another day and go from there. So let's create the closing order here on Disney. And let's come in here to the option. We're about $2 here on it. Let's see if they'll give me two. And yeah, they filled me at two. So out of Disney at $2 here. And yeah, hopefully we get another signal on it and able to get back in and go. But for now, I am out of Disney here at $2. All right. All right, so that puts the challenge here, at about 2,100. Okay, 2,100 here, and it's in a position where. Not a great start. It's almost an identical start to last challenge in terms of the movement there. And remember, last challenge we fluxed between 1,400 and 4,000 afterwards. I do expect that we have a shot higher to come, but also understand we may have a little bit lower to go, as well, depending on the next signals. Now, speaking of the next signals, we have one signal on the board here today, and we have a bullish entry trigger on CSX. I looked at the options, tried to justify a way to get in. I simply can't. They have earnings here in 9 days, and the options just the risk reward on them simply is not good enough. So I am not going to make the trade here on CSX, but it is a nice bullish signal here today. I thought Twitter might have a shot at triggering here. In fact, priced out the options. The options aren't too bad on Twitter, even for this move here on it. And it's a really nice move for Twitter. One where typically you're going to see it go on higher here, but it is not a signal. The consolidation risk, according to the algorithm, is just a little too high there for it. We have a mix of upside and downside crossovers out there. CSX, FCX, Micron, Twitter here on the upside today. And on the downside here today, we have a few more. Caterpillar, Chevron, EEM, Home Depot, Honeywell, Intel, JP Morgan, and Starbucks. None of them qualifying as triggers. Intel coming off of a new high, Starbucks coming off of a new short-term high, EEM. That's kind of the common theme with throughout these. Even Caterpillar, they're coming off a short-term high. So, yep, they may just go crumble from here. But bottom line is, with them coming off of new short-term highs, they're almost never going to trigger bearish there. So that leaves me going into the close here with cash, and about 2,100. I'll be looking to put about $1,000 into two more positions. Depending on how the signals come in. We get a signal tomorrow, I'll put 1,000 in. The next signal, I'll put 1,000 in, and go from there, just like we did last time. And look to go forward from here. From a broader market perspective here today, market down just a little bit today, down about 7 points. An inside day to yesterday's action. And market still has not, still has this kind of reaction high and reaction low to the missile strike. And let me show you what I mean. If we pull up S&P futures, you can see that we have this high right here just ahead of the missile strike, and then we have the low right here that happened, within 8 hours of that. And all the time the market has spent, has been between those two levels, and we haven't seen one of those break. And This is one of those things I do think you can look at as a catalyst, meaning the highs break, probably going to drive some more money. The lows break, we're probably going to see a new low set. As long as those highs and lows aren't tested from short-term overbought or oversold positions. What do I mean? Well, if we go straight down to this low here tonight, for example, we'll probably bounce off that level before, possibly breaking it. If we go straight up and test the highs tonight, we'll probably snap back down before possibly going and breaking it. So a break of those levels when we're not overbought or oversold, yeah, significant. But if it were to go tonight, for example, and get there, it would be a pretty overbought or oversold type scenario for it, and not one that would be more support resistance than breakout here for them. All right. We do see energy names, weakening here today. We have oil pulling on back, for the first time, since this. We saw a little reversal in it yesterday, a little gap down here today. XLE is weaker here today, but it's mixed, right? You see Chevron, it's down pretty big. You look at Exxon, it's down. You look at ConocoPhillips, and, it's down fractionally. Then you go look at something like a Halliburton. It has a sizable downward move here today, about 3%. So you have some mix in the group. NOV down pretty good, Transocean down pretty good. Here, but the XLE only down 0.8%. So it's the rest of the components holding up pretty well there with it. I would not be surprised to see more downside in the energy space as time goes on here, at least until we get into earnings, as some of this, Iranian U.S. bump here wears off, provided we don't see a new catalyst, right? And that is a big risk, for all market participants. A new catalyst that brews out of this is a risk. It is a potential. I don't think you can look at it and say, well, it's 100% certainty. I don't even think it's close to that. But that is a legitimate possibility that do have to be wary of there. If we look overall, the bullish percent index here today, you'll notice market down, bullish percent index moving on up. You don't see that very often. This is anything but confirmation for the bears that things are going down. In fact, the bulls can look at this and be very encouraged. Here overall, the market vibe remains bullish even with the small pullback here today. And yes, the bullish percent index is a piece of the market vibe, but a relatively small piece. One thing to keep in mind, though, when it comes to the bullish percent index, is we are hitting some interesting levels. Let me show you what I mean. I'm going to come and change this just to a percentage percentage chart, get rid of the log scale on it. Let's go back to our candles. There we go. But getting rid of the log scale on the bullish percent index is kind of the best way to analyze it, because you don't need a log scale like you do with percentages of stock prices. This thing is an indicator and goes from 0 to 100. But you can see that we've been up at this level before. And, we stayed around it for a while in July before a pullback, and that was a catalyst-driven pullback. We stayed up here for a while in April before the May pullback, which was a catalyst-driven pullback. We stayed up here a little bit in March, had a small pullback in the market, wasn't much at all. So we're at that level, and we're spending some time here at that level. If we come in and we look a little longer term here with it, and I'm just going to change this to a weekly chart, you can see that this is this is not an uncommon or unusual level. Sometimes it can get broken a little bit, but we're about near the highs of where this thing tends to go, and so a little bit more upside is definitely possible. But it does lend some credence to some of the arguments that a pullback is coming, just because of, maybe some of this, overly bullish nature of the market. The problem with just that argument by itself is it can be quickly countered, by sentiment indicators like the, number of bulls and number of bears that are out there. There's a small counter there, although that has been shifting and shifting aggressively. We'll see the new reading on that here tomorrow, and I'll show you where that lands and what the significance is of that then. All right. But until then, I'll be waiting for the next signal and looking to go from there. Have yourselves a fantastic evening, and I'll be back on with you here tomorrow morning. Take care.